Hi everyone, welcome to Comet Computer Private Limited e-learning program of Azure Public Cloud Training. Myself Ilan Cherian, Technical Director at Comet Computer Private Limited. In this video, we'll be understanding about the storage accounts of Azure. Basically, an storage account contains all of your Azure storage data objects, which includes the blobs, files, queues, tables, and disks. The storage account provides a unique namespace for your Azure storage data that is accessible from anywhere in the world over HTTP or HTTPS. Data in your Azure storage account is durable and highly available, secure, and massively scalable. And there are a few types of storage accounts are there. So out of that, Azure storage offers several type of storage account. Each type of storage account supports different features and has its own pricing model. And as a support professional or as an architect, a cloud architect, you need to consider these differences before you create a storage account to determine the type of account that is best for your applications. And the type of storage accounts are general purpose V2 and general purpose V1, blob store and file store, different types are there. So out of that, the general purpose V2 account is the basic storage account type for blobs, files, queues, and tables. This is recommended for most scenarios using the Azure storage. And the general purpose V1 account is actually a legacy account, that is the older version of the storage account type, and that too provides the blob service, file service, queue service, and also table service. And blob storage account, basically the blob storage. The storage account with premium performance characteristics of block blobs and append blobs. This is recommended for scenarios with a high transaction rates or scenarios that uses smaller objects or require consistently low storage latency. And coming to the file storage accounts, uh, it is actually a file service storage. So it supports only a file only storage account with the premium performance characteristics. So it is recommended for enterprise and high performance scale applications. And again, blob storage account. So this blob storage account is again a legacy blob only storage account. So you can use this general purpose V2 accounts instead of this blob storage account based on your requirement. And storage access tiers, again there are many storage access tiers are there. So Azure Storage provides different options for accessing blob data based on usage patterns. So each access tier in Azure Storage is optimized for a particular pattern of data usage. So by selecting the right access tier for your needs, you can store your blob data in the most cost-effective manner. So the available access tiers are hot access tier and cool access tier. So the hot access tier is optimized for frequently accessed data or objects in a storage account. And the access data in the hot tier is most cost effective, while storage costs are higher. And new storage accounts are created in the hot tier by default, and if required you can change based on your requirements. And cool tier, this tier is optimized for storing large amount of data that is infrequently accessed and stored for at least 30 days. So storing data in the cool tier is more cost effective, but accessing the data may be more expensive than accessing the data in the hot tier. And the other storage tier is there, that is archive tier. So this tier is available only for the individual blobs. So this archive tier is optimized for data that can tolerate several hours of retrieval latency and that will remain in the archive tier for at least 180 days. So the archive tier is the most cost-effective option for storing data. However, accessing the data is more expensive than accessing data in the hot or cool tiers. And coming to the storage redundancy. So the redundancy option for a storage account includes locally redundant storage. So locally redundant storage is a simple, low latency redundancy strategy. Low redundant storage LRS, a simple low cost redundancy strategy. The data is copied synchronously three times within the primary region. And the zone redundant storage. So the redundancy of the storage is for the scenarios which requires high availability. So the data is copied synchronously across three availability zones in the primary region. And the geo-redundant storage. So cross-regional redundancy to protect against regional outages. Data is copied synchronously three times in the primary region, then copied asynchronously to the secondary region. So for read access to the data in the secondary region, enable read access geo-redundant storage. And geo zone redundant storage, that is a new storage a type redundancy type that is being introduced. So the redundancy of scenarios requiring both high availability and maximum durability. So in this, data is copied synchronously across three availability zone in the primary region and then copied asynchronously to the secondary region. So for read access of the data in the secondary region, enable read access zone redundant storage. So, and understanding about the storage endpoints, a storage endpoint provides a unique namespace in Azure for your data. Every object that you store in Azure storage has an address that includes your unique account name. So the combination of account name and the Azure Storage Service endpoint forms the endpoint for your storage account. For example, if your general purpose storage account is named my storage account, then the default endpoint for the accounts are the storage account name dot blob dot core dot windows dot net if it is a blob storage. If it is a table storage, so the endpoint name will be my storage account dot table dot core dot windows dot net. And if it is a queue storage, and the endpoint name will be the storage account name dot q dot core dot windows dot net. And if it is a Azure file service, and the endpoint name will be my storage account dot file dot core dot windows dot net. And understanding about Azure managed disk, basically the disk we can deploy in two more methods. One is the managed disk, the other one is the unmanaged disk. So first, understanding about the managed disk, these are block level storage volumes that are managed by Azure and used with Azure virtual machines. So all the virtual machines you create will have a operating system disk and the data disk. So those data disk and operating system disk shall be a managed disk or unmanaged disk. That's up to your choice. And managed disks are like a physical disk in an on-premises server, but virtualized here. With managed disk, all you have to do is to specify the disk size, disk type, and provision the disk. Once you provision the disk, Azure handles the rest. And understanding about the Azure unmanaged disk. So unmanaged disk is something which requires you to create the storage account, whereas in managed disk, the storage account is created automatically by Azure. So whereas in unmanaged disk, we need to create the storage account manually before creating the VHD or the virtual machine. Since the storage account is created and owned by you, So you have full control over all the data that is present in your storage account. If it is a managed disk, all these things is going to be taken care by the Azure itself. And additionally, in managed unmanaged disk, you need to take care of encryption and the data recovery plans, etc. And understanding about the type of disk, basically there are three type of disk, or sorry, four type of disks are there. That is ultra disk, a premium SSD, a standard SSD, and standard HDD. So there are four type of disks are there. So first we'll understand about the Azure Ultra disk. Azure Ultra disk deliver high throughput, high IOPS, and consistency and consistent low latency disk storage for Azure IaaS VMs. Some additional benefits of Ultra disk include the ability to uh, dynamically change the performance of the disk along with your workloads without the need of restarting your virtual machines. And Ultra disks are suited for data intensive workloads such as SAP HANA, top tier databases, and transaction heavy workloads. So Ultra disk can only be used as a data disk. So Ultra disk cannot be used as the operating system disk. And understanding about Azure Premium SSD. Premium SSD deliver high performance and low latency disk support for virtual machines with input output intensive workloads. So to take advantage of the speed and performance of a premium storage disk, you can migrate existing VM disk to premium SSD. And premium SSDs are suitable for mission critical production applications. Even premium SSDs can only be used with VM series that are premium storage compatible. And understanding about Azure Standard SSD. Azure Standard SSD are cost-effective storage option optimized for workloads that need a consistent performance at lower IOPS levels. And standard SSD offers a good entry-level experience for those who wish to move to the cloud, especially if you experience issues with the variance of workloads on running on your HDD solutions on premises. So compared to standard HDDs, standard SSDs deliver better availability, consistency, reliability, and latency. And standard SSDs are suitable for web servers, low IOPS applications, lightly used enterprise application, and dev or test workloads. And understanding about Azure Standard HDD. Azure Standard HDD deliver reliable, low-cost disk support for virtual machines running latency-intensive workloads. So with standard storage, the data is stored on hard disk drives. Latency, IOPS, and throughput of the standard HDD may vary more widely as compared to SSD-based disk. And standard SSD disks are designed to deliver write latencies under 10 milliseconds and read latencies under 20 milliseconds for most I/O operations. However, the actual performance may vary depending on the I/O size and workload pattern. And when working with VMs, you can use standard HDDs for dev or test scenarios and less critical workloads. And standard HDDs are available in all Azure regions and can be used with all Azure VMs also. And the comparison of the disk types. So this table shows you the comparison of the SSD based disk, that is ultra disk, premium disk, standard SSD, and standard HDD. And so here you can see the ultra disk maximum size shall be 65,536 gigabyte, and premium SSD shall be the maximum size shall be 32,767 gigabytes, and also standard SSD also can support up to 32,767 GB, and even standard SSD also supports the same capacity. And coming to the maximum throughput, Only the Ultra disk has the highest data throughput of 2 megabits per second, whereas a premium SSD supports up to 90 Mbps, and standard SSD 750 Mbps, and standard HDD 500 megabits per second. And the maximum IOPS, even in that also UltraDisk has the upper hands. So UltraDisk supports 1,60,000 disk IOPS, whereas the premium SSD supports 20,000 IOPS, and standard SSD supports 6,000 IOPS, and standard HDD supports only 2,000 IOPS. So I believe you got a better understanding about the storage account and the type of storage and the type of disk, and the types of replication methods used in the storage accounts. So based on your requirement, your application's requirement, you can choose which type of storage account you want, either managed or unmanaged, or a premium SSD or a premium HDD, or locally redundant or a geo redundant. So you can choose based on your requirement, and you can deploy the storage account optimally for your production environment. And in the next video, we'll be discussing how to create the storage account. Until then, bye bye.